Join me on Off the Beaten Path, where we have a casual conversation with Farouque, a fascinating individual and designer based in Zanzibar, Tanzania. He has an atelier in the Emerson Hotel on Hurumzi in Stonetown. He has worked with the likes of Naomi Campbell, Maya Angelou, and others. He was making a name for himself in London as a designer of African descent at a time when others could only dream. Listen to his amazing story about traveling from Zanzibar to London and back again in search of creative expression and the freedom to be. Welcome to Off the Beaten Path. I'm here with Farouque Abdallah, and he has an atelier here in Zanzibar, Tanzania. And we're going to talk with him today about his process for creation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to ask you about your creative process.
You see, my father was a tailor. And although my grandmother was a midwife, but she used to make these bras, handmade padded bra for her friends. And the only person who couldn't hold the needle in my family was my mother, because she was a school teacher. And to this day, I call it a proper craft. My father making suits, cutting a suit without using a pattern.
Wow.
I wouldn't dare do that. And I've always been fascinated when my grandmother sit quietly. She didn't do it for a living. I think it's more like therapy. This bra, padded and patchwork. And all her friends were queuing up for this bra. And to this day, how did she fit? How did she know the sizes? I think my curiosity starts from there. Sometimes I work like that. I don't follow a particular way.
So your father was a tailor.
My father was a tailor. My grandfather was in embroidery. My great-grandfather was in embroidery.
So, do you have a muse?
I do several.
Okay.
In England, I had my dear best friend who was a musician. He was Nigerian British.
So what draws you to a muse? Like, how does one become your muse?
I think more like, not fashionable person, stylish. I keep thinking the way they walk, the way they hold themselves, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I like people who are like you, who are stylish, original.
Thank you.
I like that.
Isn't that the kind of African woman I like?
What would you say is your creative inspiration?
Africa.
Any particular part of Africa?
I'm obsessed with West Africa, especially Francophone Africa. What amazed me is they were colonized just like us.
Yes.
But with all through the colonialism, they managed to keep their culture, their clothes, their music, their food.
Now, earlier you spoke about not being able to sleep and waking up in the middle of the night and just creating without a pattern. Does something come to you in a dream? Do you have a vision? What inspires you?
No, I'm insomnia. I find it very difficult to sleep. And I read a lot of books, mainly biography. And suddenly the idea will come to me. 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't want that idea to escape me. I'm inspired by people's personal style. There are certain women, African American, African Caribbean, I like, you know, the way they hold themselves, the way they dress. They know who they are. You can feel power. You can feel like Cicely Tyson when I first saw, you know, with natural hair. I felt there's a woman who knows who she is. She stands with elegance. I love that.
And why don't you talk a little bit about your training?
My training, of course, from day one, my dad, I used to see my dad. And we thought when we were young, we thought he was almost cruel. Because during the holy month of Ramadan, Eid, the end of Eid, the holy, you know, the celebration, everyone is supposed to get new garments.
Yes.
And he was busy making this garment. But if we don't help him, we don't get anything. So every night we'll be fighting, all me, my sister, my brothers, to do the buttons, to iron, to hang, to peg.
Yes.
Partly, I think he did that is to give us informal training and also to show us money doesn't come easy. We have to work for it. He trained all my brothers except me.
Really?
Yeah. And
why?
I think deep down he thought, or he knew I'll be the one to carry it on. I showed no interest. All my brothers, they can cut, they can stitch, not professional, but they can do it.
Yes.
But he never insisted I should do it. Maybe he thought I'll be the one to carry it forward. And for the first time he came to London, I was preparing for a fashion show. And he was very upset, like I could finish a dress within 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and he showed me how to do the hemming by hand. I said, look, you'll starve if one dress takes you 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
And he really did not understand. How come you make a dress within half an hour, it's finished? The first time I was at college, not the first time, but I was doing buttonhole by hand. And this teacher came and looked. Then she went back, she brought someone else. And they were all amazed because they didn't teach me that. And then she called the principal, and they started asking, where did you learn to do this? You know, where? And I said, I used to see my dad when he was teaching me.
Yes.
So they wanted to know where my dad was from.
Yes.
So I told them from Zanzibar, but originally he's not from here. He's from Comore, which was French.
Yeah.
Then it made sense to them that was the French way to do a buttonhole. I didn't know that. I'm sure my father didn't know. It was just a natural thing for him.
We're waiting for the waiting.
Where did you go to university?
I went to college, fashion college, London college. Didn't last long. I think I was a troublemaker. we were taught about fashion, color, style, and I keep asking, how can you teach this? You don't mention Africa, you don't mention India, you don't mention China. These are ancient civilizations with creation, with textile, painting, you know, how can we never mention it? You know, it was all sort of European history of fashion. And I wasn't, before I finished, I knew where I wanted to go. And in those days, very few black people in England wore Africa. And I opened a boutique with an African style, you know, shirts, trousers, and that was it. The first time I was asked to do a proper show in London, it was funded by local government. And I did all my African stuff. And the audience were laughing. Because to them, it was bizarre. You know, I did these pants long before MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Long before MC. People are actually laughing.
Wow.
Like, to them, it's like, I could never wear this. Then the next morning, I got a call from a musician who was making a name for himself. He said, I like your style, I want you to dress me.
Good.
So he did his cover, the first CD, with my name, you know. And that's it.
Do you remember his name?
Of Courtney Pine. He was a jazz musician.
Okay.
And I did 2 covers for him. And of course, people started asking. And then I started getting sort of minor celebrities come to me, because what I was doing, it was not traditional Africa, it was a twist. Because I knew African Caribbean, they won't be comfortable wearing a full African garb. So we changed it a little bit. And then suddenly all these celebrities, like, oh yeah, I want this, I have a special occasion, I have this and this and that. Yeah.
But you know, it's, for those of us in the diaspora, it's like we're grasping. It's like we're grasping for straws to try to create something. But that's also how innovation happens.
Yeah. But we needed to create something. It's already been there. And it's always been ours. You see the problem, like the punk rock of the hairstyle. That's Africa.
It is.
If you look at Rwanda, it's Africa.
Wow.
I mean, I keep telling the young kids here, when you see Puff Daddy with all these gold chains with hair braided, I said, that's not American.
Okay.
That is Africa.
I like how you're drawing these connections for me. Like, I've never thought punk rock African. I've never thought all of those chains. I actually thought the chains symbolic of
wealth,
of poverty.
If you read any books about explorers who come to Africa, the first thing they'll mention, well, how elaborately the chief was dressed. You understand?
Yes.
So it is a status.
Sure.
Like, I'm the chief, therefore I wear everything.
So when you go to museums and they show you West African jewelry, or even jewelry from the Aztecs, it's wood and it's dipped in gold. Of course, they wore a lot of it, and I definitely see the connection that you're making.
Sometimes I get very angry when I get to the museum. Like, my anger is, how come they managed to preserve? We've lost it.
Because they took it. They took it.
So now I'm doing a program to teach, which is what he's doing at the same time. Young people are lost craft. I mean, I have an old man who actually taught me how to embroider this hat by hand. It was embroidered with silk thread. So now I want to teach young people how to do it, to preserve it, so it won't disappear.
So we talked about textiles that are unique to this part of the world. Where do you source from?
That's one of the biggest challenges here, because sometimes you want to use an indigenous fabric from Zanzibar. None are available. I mean, the kanga, if you know the kanga, that was created in Zanzibar from scratch. But now it's all printed in China, Japan, India. Really. Even African print, what we call African print, they're all Dutch works. They're printed in Holland. So no actually manufacturing in Africa.
Now, you've been on your own for quite some time. How long?
It seems like forever. I've never been employed. I have always employed myself. Never. I mean, of course, as a student, you work during holiday.
Sure.
But I've never been employed. I think I have a clear vision of where I want to go, what I want to do. It wasn't, but it just happened.
Where do you get your confidence from?
My grandmother, I think.
Your father's mother?
No, my mother's mother.
Okay.
She was a very strong woman, no nonsense. Sometimes she would get ruthless. She was very tall, very skinny, and a long neck, and long hair. African hair, but long hair. And what I really like, every morning, she will plait her hair, because she shaved her hair from ear to ear to give this long forehead. Wow. She will shave that. and she used different color earplugs. She would spend hours beautifying herself.
Really?
Yeah.
And so, I hate to get into tribes and tribalism and all of that, but could you talk to me about your ethnic background?
My background, there's a lot of blood mix, Indian, Arab, but I am African, and I'm extremely proud. Oh, you don't drink coffee?
I do, but not black.
Oh, unaweza kumtilia wasiwa kidogo?
All right.
Nasukari. I think one of the reasons I was talking to this Polish journalist, it smells good. I was talking to this journalist, why did you, because, you know, I was getting a name. I was meeting people like Princess Diana, you know, big name. And suddenly I left. And people thought, Farouque, you're on the brink of big time. I think behind, back in the back of my head was, I was categorized as Black British. And I don't think I like that. I'm not a color coordination, I'm not a color scheme. I am African.
Did you experience racism or discrimination in London?
Of course. I mean, I arrived in London in the 60s. And in those days, you still have sign outside the house, room to let, no niggers.
What?
Yeah, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
That has to be a very weird transition for people to make when you come from a place where you are the majority and then you come to a place where you are the numerical minority and all of a sudden your skin tone, or I say the packaging you come in, becomes so important that it becomes your identity.
Yeah.
You know, there are some of us who, if you don't define us as Black American, we're upset.
Yeah.
Or if you ask us about our identity, who are you? That's the first thing we name. But really, you're more than that. You're so much more than a color.
When there was a debate in America about African Americans should be called African or should remain Black, and I was there, I was in Los Angeles, and I was invited to this party, and this glamour queen, this woman, started screaming on top of her head, I'm not African, I'm an American, I don't want to be known as African American. And she was going on, she had a few to drink. And I approached her and I said, what makes you think Africa wants you?
Since you never really worked for anyone, what would you say has been your primary challenge as an independent designer?
Wow. When you're doing, when is the next collection, when's the next check coming in, you know, if you're self-employed. I mean, even the young boy downstairs, people say, you know, Farouque, you never rest. Of course, I never rest. I'm constantly working. You know, I have people I have to pay, I have people I look after, so I can't just even take a day off. So I started this organization with 23 members. Now I think they're about 300.
Wow.
3,000.
3,000?
Yeah, between here and Pemba, over 3,000. But the idea is not for non-HIV person to work there. They should learn how to work themselves. Now we have an accountant, we have everyone who works there, they are HIV. My job now is just to sign a check. I'm a board member, you know, I'm the one who gets them funding, but they are running their own show. And that was, I think, this is the biggest achievement for me.
That's short, yeah? Really short, yeah? Short.
Do you have any other proud moments aside from the HIV organization? You have to have several. Come on.
A lot.
Yes.
The proud moment, Maya Angelou.
Okay.
She came to London. Nina Simone, that's another story.
Oh, you
She
have
came-
to tell me, Nina. You
She
have
came to
to.
London, Angelou, and she was doing a performance at the Africa Center. And she asked, are there any African designers in London? So they were told, yes, there's Farouque, go ahead, see his work.
Yes.
So I took this work and I presented to her. And graciously she accepted. How much is it? I said, no, this is a gift.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is a gift. Next thing I hear on my answer phone, my answering service, Mr. Farouque, I've got 2 tickets for you to come and see my show.
Yes.
Next thing I heard, she was, I don't know, Washington or somewhere, called me, say, Mr. Farouque, I'm on the front cover with Toni Morrison wearing your garments,
Yes.
and I'm on the front cover with Oprah Winfrey wearing your garments.
Okay, I'm a big fan.
So am I.
What happened?
I love Nancy. I got a call from someone called Stuart. I think it was her manager, saying Nina would like to be dressed with an African designer shoe. So can you got in touch? I called and she picked up the telephone. Okay, I'm staying in this hotel, and she moved to another hotel. And suddenly, one day I called her. What do you want from me? Why are you hounding me? I mean, music. And I thought, oh. Like really abuse. And I talked to this man, I said, no, let it be. The same evening she sent me a ticket to go and see her concert. Before she started the concert, I think it's recorded, she turned around with the microphone on just before she started. Has Mr. Farouque arrived? Has Mr. Farouque arrived? I thought, is there another Farouque, or she meant me? I don't know. I thought maybe there's another Farouque. But I love divas like her.
You do?
Of course. She dressed up the way she likes, her own mind. She is rude. She is, like, of course, being a genius, the other side of genius is madness.